What's up, fam? Live on Instagram. This is being recorded and it's going to be uploaded onto YouTube as well, with the charts. So if you go and rewatch this YouTube breakdown of Meg Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson's Synastry reading or Synastry chart, you'll be able to follow along with the chart, okay? What's up, everybody? Welcome. Happy Sunday. Hope you guys are all doing amazing. So we're going to do something really fun today. Like I promised, I think it last week or the week before last. I put up a vote on whether or not you guys want to look into the synastry of Meg Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson. And it was like 70 or 80% of you voted like yes. So we're gonna look at the synastry of Meg Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson. And um my intention of doing this synastry reading is to learn about synastry. Is to kind of educate you guys. For those of you that are, dabbling in astrology, you want to learn a little bit more about astrology, you kind of want to know what to look for when you're looking at compatibility. Let's say you met somebody and you want to take a look at their chart. Let's say you happen to have their birthday, right? And you want to know what your compatibility is like with them. You know, what kind of issues or problems you're going to experience possibly with them. What's the good? What's the bad? Astrology is a really powerful tool. Astrology, welcome everybody coming in. Happy Sunday. Astrology is an amazing tool for navigating relationships. That's one of the things that I've learned in my own astrological practice is astrology can really help us understand what our karma is, what lessons we need to learn, right, from certain relationships or from certain people that enter our life. Um, Astrology can really help us avoid or prevent some of the worst case scenarios from happening in some of our, in the realm of human relations. We can really avoid heartbreak and pain and just like the worst scenarios that we can go through with others, right? If we kind of understand our astrology, right? So this will be uploaded onto YouTube, like I was saying. We are going to be looking at the synastry of um for how many, I don't know how many times I've said this now, but of Meg Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson. And you guys won't actually be looking at me, okay? So I'm actually going to turn the screen around. If you're on Instagram right now, I'm going to turn the screen around and I'm actually going to shoot the screen at the charts because this is something that you got to be able to look at the charts for, okay? Um, Me explaining to you their placements and then me explaining to you, which placement is talking to which placement and which, planet they have in which house. You need a visual. You need to be able to visually see a synastry reading, or if you want to learn about it, you want to understand the synastry, you got to be able to follow along visually, okay? Synastry is a little bit more complex than just typical natal astrology, or even when you're looking at your own chart by itself, because synastry involves what we called a bi-wheel. So synastry is when we lay one chart on top of the other. So you're going to see there's going to be one chart on the outside and then another chart on the inside. And then we look at the relationship between the two charts by looking at them laid on top of each other. So that's why synastry is a little bit more complex. It's a little bit more complicated. It really speaks to how your chart energetically is responding to, interacting with, speaking to, exchanging energy with the chart of someone else. That's the purpose of synastry. And it really shows us what the energetic exchange looks like with the other, you know. And you can do synastry with anybody. So you can do synastry with your friend, with your child, with your mother, your father, right? There's no limitations to who you can do synastry with to see what your compatibility is like, right? And I do this with a lot of parents. This is a very common thing that I do. I do synastry readings when I do children's chart readings. And what I usually do is I do the synastry reading with the child's chart and the parent's charts. So we can see what mom and baby, their charts lapped over each other, what their karma is like, what their energy exchange is going to be like, right? What mom is here to teach the child, and what the child is here to teach mom. Doing a synastry chart with your own child, if you are a parent, is an amazing tool. It's so empowering and so enlightening. Then I also do Usually a synastry chart with the child and the father. Okay. And it's really interesting actually when you start doing synastry with your loved ones, especially with kids and your family members and stuff, you'll start seeing reoccurring themes. You'll start seeing reoccurring patterns. You'll start seeing, oh, we all got the same Mars. Oh my gosh, we all got the same Mercury placement. Oh my gosh, we all got the same planet in the same house, right? There's like patterns, karmic patterns that run in the family that we not only see genetically, but we see it astrologically as well, right? Because I'm a firm believer that astrology is it's celestial DNA. You know, it shows us the karmic patterns that run in the family and how that's reflected in the stars. It's really cool, actually. Astrology is amazing. It's brilliant at doing that, you know? All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. We only got 8 people here, but it's okay. Um, we're gonna have more people join, I'm sure. Everybody here, thank you for being here. Happy Sunday. I'm just waving at everybody who's here. This is a wonderful opportunity to tap in if you want to learn astrology, if you're looking to learn, kind of develop your knowledge. I'm going to be doing this synastry reading of Meg and I'm going to be doing this synastry reading of Meg and Klay Thompson's chart as if you guys were like first graders, okay? And I'm like in college. I'm a college student coming to visit a first grade class and teach a little bit about my area of expertise. Okay, that's the level that I'm kind of gonna be. That's how I'm gonna simplify it. Okay, it's the level that I'm kind of going for. I'm assuming that you guys are all first graders and you know nothing about astrology. You know very little. Okay, so let me go ahead and turn the screen around. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this, and I'm gonna position this in a way to where you guys can see the chart and see what I'm looking at. Can you guys see that? Is that nice and clear? I think that's nice and clear. That is very clear. I actually love this new laptop that I got because not only is the screen so much like clearer and brighter, but it just everything about this laptop is amazing. Like I just love this new laptop that I bought. Okay, so whose chart is this? Anybody know whose chart we're looking at? I don't know if any of you guys are Meg the Stallion fans. So who's Meg the Stallion? Meg the Stallion is a rapper. She like showed up on the scene back in like 2018, 2019. She had this drama that happened with her. What year was that? 2022, 2023, with like the whole Tory Lanez incident where she was in court. She ended up getting like shot in the foot, and it was like this whole dramatic like thing. For, and it's really interesting, right? How she ended up getting shot in the foot, or she experienced like a moment of violence with a man and like this whole weird drama associated with it because she does have Saturn in Pisces, right? So Pisces rules the feet. Saturn indicates some kind of tragedy, some kind of loss. She also has Moon Mars together, which is indicative of like domestic violence, anger, rage, kind of quarrels when you're in private, or you know, for if when a woman has Moon Mars together like this, it's kind of like fighting with men, fighting with women, growing up, having an upbringing where there's like a lot of violence, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of fighting, you know, and things like that. When people have Moon Mars sitting together like this, it doesn't really matter what part of the chart it's at. If Moon and Mars are together, okay, this is someone who experiences their emotional life, their private life, their home life. These are all moon significators, okay? So if you have a pen and paper out, you should be writing these down. These are all significations of the moon when we're talking about synastry. So your home life, your private life, your past, your relationship with your mother, how you engage in intimacy, how you fall in love, how you form emotional bonds, how you conceive home, what your conceptions of home are, what home means to you, what family means to you, whether or not a woman wants to be a mother, whether or not a woman wants to be a mom, a woman's relationship with her own mother, with what it means to mother, right? With what it means to be the domestic in the relationship, or to be the receiver in the relationship, or even to be the feminine in the relationship, right? The moon's role when we're talking about synastry is about kind of like caretaking and nurturing and family and support. And when we're talking about the moon, we're especially how it shows up in synastry. I'm going to show you guys when we get to the synastry chart between Meg and Clay, how good harmonious aspects to each other's moon is really what we're looking for when it comes to synastry, because the moon creates a sense of emotional safety, security, also emotional investment. And the moon also in synastry, the way it operates, it speaks to like one person's family liking the other person's family, getting along with the other person's mom. So sometimes when we don't have good moon synastry, we have harsh moon synastry, um, we will have a bad relationship, or our spouse will have a bad relationship with our mother, or our mother may not like our spouse, right? Or our spouse doesn't get along with our family doesn't want to come to our wedding, right? Or my family doesn't want to come to our wedding, right? And it's because of the bad aspects. If, right, in synastry, if there's bad aspects to the moon, it's because of the bad aspects to the moon, especially when you have Saturn or you have Mars in aspect to the moon in a synastry chart, right? The fact that Meg has the moon Mars together tells us that she actually likes Martian type of men. She likes Mars energy. This can be someone, Meg could be someone who actually finds it comfortable or familiar or safe for there to be some kind of irritation or anger in her day-to-day experience of her relationship, right? She can also kind of be mean, or she could lash out. Many times, what happens in relationships is we tend to think that men are the primary abusers, right? Or the ones that are always lashing out and being mean or antagonistic or attacking. But actually, many times it's women. It's a woman that will be the one who's always lashing out at her partner, attacking him, or trying to dominate him, or fighting him, or combating him, right? And this is the chart. Meg the Stallion has a chart of a woman who attacks her man, Moon Mars together. So whenever you see this Moon Mars together in a synastry reading, if you have this in your chart, if you have moon aspecting Mars in your own natal chart, or if you have a moon in Aries, it's the same thing with women that have a moon in Aries or a moon in Scorpio. It's very similar energy, moon Mars together. This is gonna be you're angry. You're always mad about something. You're attacking your partner. Okay, you're irritated. Your partner irritates you. It frustrates you. You're like, you're always but that's because you have no peace within yourself. You got to figure out what is the inflammation of Mars. What are you mad about, right? And I think that's one of the big things that I would, if Meg, right, let's say Meg came to me um, for a reading and she was asking about how she can be more successful in her relationships, or how she can have a better experience in her relationships, or what's the problem with her relationships, right? I'll ask her, well, have you resolved, like, how do you go about conflict in your relationships? Like, do you get angry? Do you explode? Do you try to dominate your partner? Do you not listen to your partner? Are you emotionally impulsive? Are you emotionally explosive? Right? Do you not know how to compromise? Do you not know how to find peace in your relationships? Do you not know how to find balance? These are questions I would ask her, because we got to get to the root of how are you contributing to the problem? How are you either like entertaining the situation in terms of, or like enabling anger and fighting in your relationship circumstance? Like, what part are you playing? Like, are you like, what are you mad about, right? And how do you go about dealing with conflict? And these are the questions I would ask her. This is like the conversation I would have with her, because right away I see her moon Mars together, which tells me that more than likely she's probably going to be the problem in some type of way. Okay. Also, another thing that you got to understand is, not only does Meg have moon Mars together, she has Mars opposite the sun. So this is a woman, it's Mars and Leo next to the moon in Leo, and Mars and Leo opposite the sun in Aquarius. This is a woman who's used to getting attacked. She's used to fighting. She's used to war. She's used to dealing with conflict. She's also always dealing with women that are fighting with her and don't like her. She has Moon, which is woman, Mars together, opposite the sun, right? Women who are attacking her public image. It's like men that don't like you, men that don't like your career, men that want to challenge your career. She gets it from men and women, Mars and the moon opposite her sun, right? So this is a woman who has a very strong relationship with Mars. She has a very the Mars imprint in her chart is very, very strong, right? Mars with the moon, Mars opposite the sun. She also has a retrograde Mars, which tells us that karmically speaking, when we're talking about karmic astrology and we're looking at retrograde planets and how they operate in karmic astrology, we're looking at retrograde planets as karma from those planets that we bring over from a past life into this life. Okay. So what happens with Mars, right? Like Mars, when we're talking about past life karma, especially Mars and Leo, this is karma around being with men that, especially because this is a woman's chart, this is Meg's chart we're looking at. Mars retrograde in Leo, karma around being with men that are egotistical, that are selfish, that are narcissistic, right? Also, men that can be domestically abusive or angry because she doesn't have it in the fourth house. Also, this karmic thing that she inherited from her mother, right? Because this is a Mars moon thing and it's the fourth house around being with these men that are kind of like troublemakers, right? So, or they're kind of, they're always fighting us in some type of way, or they have no career direction, or they have some kind of problem or issue. Because if we take a look, right, the masculine planets in Meg's chart are the moon, or I'm sorry, are the sun and well, in anybody's chart, right? The masculine planets are going to be the Sun, Mars, and Jupiter. And we'll notice that, look at all of her Sun, Mars, and her Jupiter, and in some ways, they're all kind of like afflicted, right? So this is kind of like the affliction here that we're seeing is a fourth house Mars, which we don't want. You don't want Mars in the fourth house. The fourth house is your upbringing and your home life and your family life, right? This is the house that's energetically linked to the sign of Cancer. So when we see Mars in the fourth, especially retrograde, which makes it even stronger, this tells us that, there's a karma here around kind of like a domestic abuse, violence, anger, rage, fighting in the home and the family. This is a house that you don't want Mars in. You don't want Mars in the fourth. You also don't want Mars in the seventh. When Mars is in the fourth or seventh, it's going to indicate there's some kind of quarrelsome energy, some kind of, there's violence, there's anger, there's abuse, there's neglect, there's fighting, right? In the domestic life or in the relationship life. Fourth house is domestic life, seventh house, if you have Mars in the seventh, or if you're looking at a synastry chart and you see someone that has Mars in the seventh, that's the relationship life, right? When you get into partnership with them or relationship with them, all of a sudden there's going to be some kind of irritation, arguments, fights, or something like that. Or there could even be like a competitiveness or a combativeness that can manifest when Mars is in the seventh. So this is like people that compete with their partners and stuff like that. Okay. Someone said it's giving an unhappy home. So going back to what I was saying, okay. So do you guys know about Meg's dad? Did you guys anybody research her? Well, I did. So Meg's father was actually a prisoner, Saturn in Pisces. Look at this. Her sun in Aquarius is ruled by Saturn in Pisces. Um, he was not in her life for the majority of her upbringing, and he actually ended up passing away. So he passed away when she was in her late teens. And or was she a teenager? I don't know. She could have been she was a teenager, I know that. I don't know if she was early teens or late teens. I don't remember. But her father passed away from a heart attack. And we could see that in the chart because look at she has a sun in Aquarius opposite Mars, Moon, and Leo. And what is this axis about? This is the axis of the heart, Leo, and the cardiovascular system, right? Which is Aquarius, the electrical system. This is the blood going through our heart. This is the electricity of our heart, Aquarius. And then Leo is the heart itself. So we can see that her father, which is the sun, passed away from a heart attack. Sun opposite Mars, Moon, and Leo. Okay, it's kind of written in her chart that her father would pass away in a way like that, or there's some kind of trauma that she has with her father because she has a weak sun. The 10th house of the father is ruled by Saturn. We have this Saturn squaring an eighth house Jupiter, which is an issue. This is kind of giving dad being like a con artist, a deceiver, a criminal, a drug dealer, something like that. 11th house Saturn in Pisces squaring eighth house Jupiter in Sag. And then the sun, right, opposite the Mars. This is an affliction. Also, her mother passed away. Oh my goodness, this woman's gone through it. Let me tell you, like Mars in her chart is doing a lot of damage. So her mother passed away from a brain tumor, from brain cancer. Moon next to Mars. Mars creates inflammation. So what is Mars and what is the sign of Aries and Mars rule? Mars rules the head, Mars rules the brain. Okay, so we can see that. So when it comes to like domestic life, family life, she's got a tough chart. She's got an afflicted chart, Like life hasn't been easy for her. Her upbringing wasn't easy. But what was also interesting is how she got this Leo moon from her mother, because her mother was actually a rapper. Her mom's rapper name was like Hollywood something. I think her mom's name was Holly, so she went by Hollywood something or other. So Meg actually grew up going to the studio with her mother, and her mother was like would be rapping in the studio and stuff and she would like take Meg out of school and stuff like this. So it's really interesting how she got this Leo moon from her mom, and Leo's a sign of the celebrity. Leo's a sign of performers, right? So Meg inherited this Leo moon from her mother that wanted to be a rapper or that was a rapper. So she's kind of carrying her mother's lineage, right? She's carrying her mother's kind of like ambitions, her mother's goals, and her mother's drive and stuff like that, right? Someone said I have Mars conjunct Moon and the Sun in the third. My mom passed away from brain cancer too. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, Mars conjunct the Moon. So this is what happens when you have Moon Mars together. Mom will have brain issues, blood issues. This will also be about, heavy bleeding, menstruation issues, really bad cramping that runs in the family. So if you're a woman, right, and you have Moon Mars together, or you have Moon in Aries and Moon in Scorpio, you are your moon in your chart, right? So women, they identify physically, their body identifies physically with the moon. The moon is, well, for everybody actually, the moon is linked to our body in our birth chart, right? So whenever transits happen with our natal moon, we can experience a health or a body thing. But for women especially, the moon, right? The moon is your body, the moon is your womb, the moon is your reproductive organs, but the moon is also your brain. It's the matter of the brain. So when Moon Mars are together, we get inflammation, we get heat, inflammation, we get an attack, we get some kind of unhealthiness associated with matters of the moon. Because Mars creates inflammation, attack. Mars is a destructive energy, right? So, and Mars in the fourth is destructive. Mars next to the moon is destructive, right? So, and then she has Mars also opposite the sun. So this also tells us that when Meg was created, her mother and her father were going to war. They were fighting each other. They were arguing with each other. Things were not peaceful at home, right? So the reason why it's important to kind of understand our own individual chart before we jump into a synastry reading or just before we look at a synastry chart is because we got to understand how our planets and how our chart operates relationship wise. We also got to understand what we're bringing into the relationship based off of our own birth chart, right? Someone said, so I guess moon cap related is gut health, inflammation of Mars close by. Yes. Okay. Also Moon in Capricorn is more about like what is it? If you have a Moon in Capricorn, Capricorn in general, this is about like nutritional deficiencies or like not having enough vitamins and minerals, like calcium deficiency, iron deficiency. Some people that have a weak Mars, they have that too. Calcium deficiency, iron deficiency. You don't have enough manganese, you don't have enough metals in your body or metals, vitamins. That's Moon in Capricorn. Moon in Capricorn is more about malabsorption and it's more about the bones and the ligaments and the building blocks of the body, right? That's more Moon in Capricorn. That's why the moon is in detriment or debilitated in Capricorn, right? My mom's got osteo. Yeah, a lot of women that have a moon in Capricorn later on in life, they get arthritis, they get osteoporosis, they get like really bad like things with their tendons and their bones and their ligaments and stuff. Um, like frozen shoulder and stuff like that because of the debilitated moon. All right, let's keep going. All right, so when we're looking at a woman's chart, we're looking at Meg's chart, right? So let's say you're a woman and you want to understand the type of man that you want to be with. Like, what is the type of man that I'm here to be with? What is the partner that is best for me? So you're gonna look to a few different things. We haven't even talked about her Venus yet. We're gonna get there, okay? Um, you're gonna look to Mars. If you're a woman, you're going to look to your Mars because your Mars is going to tell you what type of partner that you're looking for. Okay. Your sun is also going to tell you how you envision a baby daddy, or what type of baby daddies you're going to attract, or what, if you're going to make a guy a dad, then that's going to be the sun in your chart, okay? And then Jupiter is the benevolent husband. Jupiter's the husband that is going to treat you right. It's going to be kind and nice with you and stuff, right? And also, we could look, you're going to look to Saturn. Every planet plays a big part, right? In synastry, but in a woman's chart, it's going to be Mars, Jupiter, and the Sun. They're going to tell us a lot about the type of man that we're going to be with. Okay, and I'm going to literally show you how this manifested in Meg synastry with Clay, because you're going to literally see how he's her Mars in so many ways. Okay, like he's literally embodiment of her Mars. And you can't get away from this. Like this is going to manifest no matter what. And even if they don't have the direct placements, the placement of Mars, Jupiter, and the Sun are going to tell us like what type of person that you're here to be with. So Mars and Leo, what? If a woman has a Mars and Leo, she wants to be with a man that's Leo energy. He's a celebrity. He's an athlete. He's an entrepreneur. He's a businessman. He's charismatic. He's got a big personality. He's very funny. He's got a big character. He wants to be a father. He has a good relationship with his father, right? He's gonna be in the limelight. He's gonna be a boss, right? At his job in some type of way. That's Leo energy, right? The shadow of the Mars in Leo can be attracting men that are narcissistic or selfish, or that are very bombastic, or that are very arrogant, prideful. That's the shadows of the Mars in Leo, and how it'll show up in Synastry, or in how it'll manifest, the shadows of how that Mars and Leo can manifest in her love life. Okay, is the Mars and Leo. And then the Sun in Aquarius, 10th house Sun, right? So a guy who's in the public eye, a guy who's a little different. He's a little weird. He's a little strange. He's a little unique. A guy that may have a narrative around not fitting in some type of way. Sun in Aquarius. He doesn't fit in. He's been outcasted. He feels a little different, right? Also, something kind of strange, something kind of unique about the relationship. Something could be different about it, right? Or about him in some type of way. So you could see that she was born on a full moon as well. She has a sun opposite the moon, right? So she's trying to find so people that are born on a full moon like this, they're very aware of the polarity between the sun and the moon within them, okay? Because the sun plays the masculine side of this relationship, and then the moon plays the feminine side of this relationship, right? So if a woman is born on a full moon, she's gonna play the role of the moon in Leo in her relationship, and she's looking for a partner to play the role of the sun in Aquarius, right? So she's right, because women are the moon. Women are the moon and Venus, right? And a woman, she wants to play the role of the moon in her relationship. Ultimately, that's what right? That's kind of, the moon is the feminine planet. The moon is the female planet when it comes to gender dynamic relationships, right? Or a heterosexual relationship. So she's looking for a man to play the sun. She's looking for the sun in Aquarius, right? And then also, her Jupiter in Sagittarius in the eighth house. So this is looking, so that this eighth house Jupiter, right, squaring Saturn in Pisces. This is very important because it's interesting, because this sun in Aquarius is disposited by Saturn in Pisces, which is touching her Venus. You see this? So even though she's looking for this sun in Aquarius energy, she's actually looking for she's looking for her Saturn in Pisces, because this Saturn in Pisces is not only touching her Venus, but it also rules over her Venus in Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, right? All of this, all this Capricorn, Aquarius, both of these houses ruled by Saturn, these are disposited. These are ruled by Saturn and Pisces. So the dispositor of Aquarius in Capricorn is Saturn, right? So when I'm saying dispositor, what I'm saying is the planet that rules these planets, the planet that rules these signs is Saturn. So these planets, Sun, Mercury, Neptune, Uranus, and Venus, they have to ask Saturn for permission before they could do anything. They pull their energy from the Saturn and Pisces. So this is why her Venus in Capricorn, it's gonna come through with a little hint of Pisces. Her Sun in Aquarius, it's coming through with a little hint of Pisces. Her Mercury in Aquarius, it's manifesting with a little hint of Pisces, because these planets all come through the filter of Saturn and Pisces. They have to pull their energy to manifest what it is that they want to do, right? From this Saturn and Pisces. Does that make sense? So this is dispositorship. So we look at the planet that rules the sign of the house that these planets are in. So we'll say, right? So let me explain what I mean. So the sun in Aquarius is disposited by Saturn in Pisces because the sun in Aquarius is ruled by this Saturn because Saturn rules the sign of Aquarius. You see what I'm saying? Saturn in Pisces is being disposited by Jupiter in Sagittarius. Jupiter is in the sign that he loves. He's in the sign that he rules, right? Jupiter in Sag is not being disposited by anything. Jupiter in Sagittarius has no dispositor because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So he's in his domicile, he's in his home sign, right? The sun in Aquarius, he's in the sign opposite of his home, which means he's in detriment. So the sun rules the sign of Leo because the sun is in Aquarius, the sign of his opposition. He's in his detriment. The sun does not rule the sign of Aquarius. Who rules Aquarius traditionally? Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces. Therefore, the sun is being disposited by Saturn in Pisces. Does that make sense? So, this Saturn square Jupiter, right? This is a tension between expansion, growth, the husband, right? Um, Joy, fun, pleasure, and contraction, her career, her friendships, her expectations. Saturn square Jupiter, okay? This could also manifest as conflicts when it comes to beliefs, ambitions, goals, dreams, and kind of like inhibitions, expectations, contracts, commitment. Saturn square Jupiter, this is not so bad in synastry, but this can make a husband become like a liability, or this can even manifest as Meg getting into partnerships where money and finances are an issue or a problem, or the spouse's friends become a problem. It's Saturn in the 11th house. 11th house rules friends, squaring the 8th house Jupiter. The reason why money or finance is going to be an issue in her relationships in general when it comes to spouses is because of the 8th house influence. 8th house is shared resources. 8th house is a money house, what I own, what you own. 8th house is what you give to others, how you exchange resources with others. So this 8th house Jupiter scoring Saturn could manifest as her getting into weird financial debacles with the partner or with the spouse. Okay. Um, so yeah. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about before we jump into the synastry is I want to talk about her Venus in Capricorn. So, and she has Venus touching Saturn. So she is looking what is Venus in Capricorn looking for in a woman's chart? Something very serious, something stable, something career oriented, a relationship that supports her career, a relationship that understands sometimes our relationship is gonna have to take a back seat. Sometimes our relationship is going to have to be on the side because our work and our career and our ambitions are important. So when we have Venus and Chiron, especially as a woman who's in the public eye and who's career focused like her, that Venus is going to speak to someone who understands that sometimes the relationship is not going to come first because we have other commitments, we have other contracts, we have other expectations, right? We have other life demands, right? But ultimately, it is a ninth house Venus in Capricorn. So this is being with someone who's educated, who's intelligent, who's smart, right? Someone who's very spiritual or religious or faithful. That ninth house Venus touching this 11th house Saturn could also tell us that, that Meg, her family kind of grew up in the church or something. She grew up with a very religious background. She could have had a grandmother or a grandfather that was very religious, that was Christian, or that was Catholic, or that was a pastor or something, right? Because she's looking that ninth house Venus is, I'm looking for this relationship that is very spiritual, that opens up my eyes, that's kind of, that has a very strong moral compass. She's looking to partner with someone who's very good, that Venus sextile that Saturn. But also it's interesting because that Saturn touching Venus, this could also be partnering with someone that's a little boring or something like this, or someone that, is a little kind of their life is very simple. It's not very dramatic. I always think about Venus and Capricorn, women with Venus and Capricorn, they want to be with a man who just goes to work and then comes home, right? He's predictable. You know what to expect. And I think that's what Venus and Capricorn is about. Because Venus and Capricorn, right? Women that have Venus and Capricorn, Capricorn is a sign of control. Capricorn is a sign of expectation. Capricorn is a sign of rules and regulations, right? Capricorn is a sign ruled by Saturn. It's a very dominant, it's a very powerful sign. And Capricorn, Venus and Capricorn, she wants to build a relationship that is like structured, that has rules, that has expectations. Like, so if a woman has Venus and Capricorn, she needs to partner with someone that's going to follow her rules, right? She's going to partner with someone that also has a long-term vision or a long-term dream. She wants to partner with someone who's a provider, who's a builder, who is of means, right? Who has a healthy relationship with the material world. This is a very Venus and an earth sign energy, whether it be Venus in Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn. But Venus in Capricorn, it's like we're looking for stability, we're looking for structure, we're looking for financial safety, we're looking for someone that is consistent, someone that is reliable, someone that may be a little boring, but their routine, we already know what to expect, right? Their life is boring, but we get the security and the safety of I know where they're at all times. I know they're going to be home at this date. I know they're going to be here at this time. I know they have this time, right? So it's so important, right, that Venus and Capricorn, her partner aligns with those rules and those regulations of her expectations. And then it's not only just Venus and Capricorn, but it's also Venus touching Saturn, right? So this will also tell us that she's going to have a love of Saturn men or Saturn energy. So she's going to like guys that are Aquarian. She's going to like guys that are Capricornian, right? Because not only does she have Venus in a Saturn rule sign, but her Venus is in a sextile exactly 12 degrees to Saturn in Pisces, right? So the fact, whatever, if you have Venus touching a planet, right? Let's say you have Venus touching Jupiter. Let's say you have Venus Mercury together. Let's say you have Venus and the Sun together. You're gonna love that planet, or guys or people that embody that planet as well. So if you have Venus touching Saturn, you're gonna like Saturn and people. You're gonna like Saturn guys, Saturn men, Saturn women, Aquarius, Capricorn. If you have Venus and the Sun together, you're gonna love Leo people. You're gonna love Leo men or Leo women. Okay. You have Venus, Mars together. You're gonna love Scorpios. And you're gonna love Aries people, right? Because you have Venus, Mars together. So the whatever's happening to your Venus is also modifying in modifying what your Venus is attracted to, what quality of relationship that you're looking for, right? Does that make sense? So, her Venus and Capricorn in the ninth house, right? Venus, the really cool thing about having a ninth house Venus, like Meg does, though, is that this tells us that she is going to find a partner that's very devoted, that's very connected, right? At the end of the day, the natal promise by her end of life is that she's going to find a partner that is going to treat her right, it's going to commit to her. It may be a little boring, it may be a little whatever, but she's going to be in a long-term stable relationship. Even if it's boring, even if it's over time, it's just like, okay, because of the ninth house Venus, and then also Venus, Saturn touching each other. Okay. Also, usually Venus, Saturn, Venus in the ninth house, this could also manifest as being with someone that is like I said before, highly educated, college educated. They are come from a prominent family or they're foreign born. So, being with someone that was born in a different country, that's, a different ethnicity, something like that, or they come from a different culture in some type of way. That's also a ninth house Venus thing. Okay. So, all right. So now, well, and then she's a Taurus rising, right? So so when we're looking at the chart, okay, before I jump into this industry, I kind of want to lay out what houses are important when it comes to relationship compatibility. All the houses are important. All of them are important, okay? But some houses are a little bit more important than others when it comes to synastry because they are relationship houses and they're like houses that are connected to relationships, right? So obviously the first is going to be the seventh house. All right. The seventh house has everything to do with partnership, everything to do with relationship. The seventh house is the house of marriage. It's the house of your partner. It's the house of others. It's the house of your long-term commitments. Okay. The second house is going to be the fifth house. This is the house of love and romance. And this is the house of fun, joy. This is also the house of creation and children. So it's important that the fifth house, when we're looking at a synastry chart or we want to understand compatibility, we got to look at what's going on with the fifth. The fifth is so important because, especially if people want to have kids, the fifth is very important. If we want like long-term sustainable sexual compatibility, the fifth house is important. If we want to feel celebrated and supported by a partner, the fifth house is important. If we want to feel like seen, if we want to, feel like there's a lot of, you know, uh, it's like we're like inner child, right? Like they speak to our inner child. They make us feel alive. They make us feel celebrated. They make us feel warm like that. That's the fifth house, right? Someone said, Louis, what if these houses are empty in your chart? Well, then you do what I've talked about this plenty of times. I've talked about dispositorship. You go look at the house the planet that rules the house of or that rules the empty house. I've talked about this. I cannot even comment how many times I've talked about this. Okay, but if a house is baby, you're gonna have empty houses. You're gonna have empty houses. That'll be like a whole nother thing. That's like those are basic things. I love you. You're amazing. But if houses are empty, that is a question that you should be able to answer. I feel like if you've been following me for the last few years, you should know how to read an empty house, or you should know what that looks like. Okay. Um, Everyone's gonna have empty houses, okay, in their own personal birth chart. But I'm not gonna talk about that today. We'll get to that when we talk about synastry. I'm talking about this for well, I'm talking about this in relation to synastry. Someone said, would it be difficult for family having children if you have the South Node in the fifth house? Yes, it will. Yes. Also, Chiron, like her. See? So there's some kind of woundedness and there's some kind of karma that she has with children because she has Chiron in the fifth house. And she has Mercury retrograde ruling over the fifth house. So this tells me that there's some kind of karmic lesson. There's something that Meg has around children and procreation. There's some kind of woundedness that she has here. Um, so yeah, you know. But yeah, if you have the South Node, if you have Chiron, if you have Mars, if you have Saturn in the fifth house, that can indicate challenges or struggles with children, procreation, making babies. Uranus in the fifth can be accidental pregnancy. I've seen that a lot. The South Node in the fifth house, especially South Node, Mars there. South Node Mars, no, South Node Saturn in the fifth house is usually indicative of the first pregnancy being miscarried or aborted or something. It really depends on like the rest of the chart though. Someone said empty houses are activated by transits to the planets that rule them. Yes. When the house is empty, someone said when the house is empty, look at the sign of the house, apply the planet ruler, and look for that planet in the chart. Yes, I've explained that plenty of times. I've talked about house dispositor. That's literally what I was talking about with dispositorship, but that is something that we'll save for another time. Okay. So we're talking about compatibility today. All right. So yeah, so Meg, right? She got Scorpio in the seventh house of partnership with the North Node here, right? So she's looking for someone that's also like Rahu in her chart. She's here to partner with someone that is kind of like Rahu energy. So there's something that could be very intense, something very unique, very special about them. The North Node in the seventh house does indicate being with someone that's very successful when it comes to their like the outside world. So they have a very successful career. They make a lot of money. The things just seem to like really work out for them. They tend to be the more stronger, the more dominant partner in the relationship in some type of way, especially behind the scenes. That can manifest with the North Node in the seventh house. I really like that the point of fortune is on her North Node though, because the point of fortune does protect from the malefic energy of the North Node. The North Node is a malefic is a malefic celestial body, I guess it's not a celestial body, it's a point in the sky, okay? It's the nodes of the moon. It's a malefic celestial point, is what I'll say, right? But the point of fortune, whenever it's next to something like this, it protects from the malefic aspects of the North Node. So if you have the point of fortune next to Saturn, you're going to be protected from the malefic aspects of your Saturn placement. If you have the North Node next to Mars, you're going to be protected from the malefic aspects of your Mars placement, right? So the point of fortune is a celestial point that protects against the negative impact of more malefic or more challenging celestial bodies or placements. Okay. So, but she's ultimately what? This seventh house, what? The seventh house Scorpio is ruled by what? It's ruled by Mars in Leo, right? So her seventh house ruler brings us back to this Mars in Leo. So we can see that this Mars in Leo has a lot to say when it comes to her love life, when it comes to Meg's love life. Okay. All right. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the synastry chart. All right. So we're going to be looking at the synastry chart from the perspective of Meg because we don't know Klay Thompson's birth time. Therefore, we don't have a time chart. Therefore, we don't have his rising. But what I do, and I don't know someone's rising, and I want to read their chart. What I do is this is a chart of Klay Thompson, by the way. What I do is I put the sun on the rising, usually, or put the sun in the first house. And then you'll be able to read the chart from there. You can also do it with the moon. You can also put the moon in the first house, and you can read a chart that like that. But I usually read it from the sun. Okay. So Klay Thompson, this is his chart. So he was born February 8th, 1990 in LA. We can see that he's in Aquarius. Look at he has the North Node and the Sun together in Aquarius. He's got a Capricorn stellium. So look at he has Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Mars, all in Capricorn. He's got this Pluto, Lilith, and Scorpio, and then he has a moon in Leo, and he has this beautiful Jupiter in Cancer, but he does have Chiron in Cancer there. So I really wonder what this is about, because I did a lot of research on Klay, and I was like, not a lot, but I was reading up on him, and it seems like this man had a really good upbringing. I don't, his mom and dad are still together. They were both athletes growing up, and yeah, so it's like he has this Chiron in Cancer, but I mean, it's interesting because I actually think that his struggles or his challenges they're not nearly as challenging or severe as Meg's. But I actually think that his the challenge with his chart or what he experienced, and this is the down that I got, had more to do with being interracial and kind of like being like his identity being something that is he's kind of like a weirdo. He kind of like doesn't fit in anywhere. Like, because his dad is Bahamian, so his dad is from the Bahamas, and his dad's like African American, and his mom's like a white woman, and so he's kind of like on this like cultural, ethnic kind of like cusp, you know? He exists in this space where it's like he's not quite this, he's not quite that, he's something in between. So when I was looking at his chart and reading it, I was like, yeah, he feels like an outcast. Like he feels like an outsider. He feels like a weirdo. He feels like he's awkward. Like it's like he doesn't fit in, like he doesn't fit in with the boys type of thing. Like, he's very nerdy. Like there's something, and I was thinking about this like the nerdiness. I was seeing that with the Mars Uranus together. Like this guy is really he may be into planes and he may be into video games and he may be into, technology and he may be into like race cars or anime or things like this. Like he may just be into like some really nerdy, really, off the wall type of things because the Mars Uranus together, like he could have been like an aerospace scientist if he wanted to be, Mars Uranus together. It makes someone very technologically intelligent and very smart. I saw a video of him teaching her golf. He's so nerdy and different and nerdy. Yeah, and it's funny because, he's looking for the moon in Leo. He's looking for a woman that's right. So he's looking for, if we're looking at his chart, right? We're looking at a man's chart. He's looking for his Venus and he's looking for his moon. A man is looking for, especially a straight man, a heterosexual man, he's looking to partner with his Venus and he's looking to partner with his moon, right? He has a moon in Leo, right? Just like Meg. And he has Venus in Capricorn. So if Clay is looking for his moon, right, the woman he's here to be with or make a mom, which is the moon, and then the type of woman he's into, which is Venus, well, guess what? What does Meg have? A moon in Leo and Venus in Capricorn. And he has what? Venus in Capricorn and a moon in Leo. So we can literally see astrologically how us having mirrored placements or a man and a woman having mirrored placements will literally manifest as them being the embodiment of the other for the other person in the other person's chart, right? Like Meg is literally showing up as this Venus in Capricorn in his chart. She's very ambitious. She's very career oriented. She's very successful. She's got her money on lock. You know what I mean? She's committable. She's stable. She's reliable. She's dependable. Those are all the things that he's looking for when it comes to his Venus placement. And he has found that in Meg, right? Also, he has a moon in Leo. So he's okay with, he knows. He wants to be with a woman that is in the limelight. She's a celebrity, she's the star of the show. He's just coming along for the ride, Sun in Aquarius. So it's so interesting actually how we can see in the synastry how he has that moon in Leo and that Venus in Capricorn, and how she, being the moon in Leo, having moon in Leo and Venus in Capricorn, she kind of fits into his chart in that way, right? But what is another thing that this guy has that is so energetically compatible with her? Well, it's his Mars in Capricorn, right? So we're gonna look at the synastry chart now. I'm going to show you here. So we're going to look at the synastry chart. So this is their compatibility chart. This is their synastry chart. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at both of their charts laid on top of each other. Okay. And what you'll notice is that, so I'm on astroseek.com. This is the website that I'm using. And I actually go ahead and I go down to extended settings right here, and then I go to house system and I put it in whole sign. I read charts on whole sign. It is totally your preference, but let me tell you something. Okay, do you see this? See how beautiful and like even and nice this looks? Right? Look at how even the house layovers are. I'm going to show you why changing the house system, I believe, and this is my opinion, this is just something that I do. You don't have to do this. Changing the house system, the whole sign when you're looking at a synastry chart, it makes the houses very, very clear. I'm going to show you this in Placidus now. Okay, and look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. You're trying to read house overlaps in synastry with Placidus. If you're trying, good luck. Look at this. Nothing is equal. Look at this. There's no clarity when it comes to the house systems and the house overlap here. This is too much. That's why I always tell people, especially in synastry, you always want to go ahead and put the chart in whole sign, okay? Especially if you're doing synastry, because it just makes it so much easier and so much clearer to read, okay? And reading a synastry chart in whole sign will never let you down. It will never fail you. I promise. All right. It has never failed me in my years of doing synastry readings and being a practicing full-time astrologer. Okay. Doing a synastry chart breakdown in whole sign, believe you me, you'll be accurate every time. Okay. So, all right, let's kind of dive in. So we talked about, you know, we were talking about Meg's chart, right? We were talking about Meg having the North Node in the seventh house of partnership and her being with someone that has a relationship with the North Node, right? Her being with the guy or with a partner that has some kind of North Node influence. Well, look at Clay's chart. Look what he has. He has the Sun and the North Node together. So this guy was actually born around an eclipse. He could have been born, I think he was born a day before the eclipse, I believe. This guy was born in eclipse. So she wants to partner with someone that was born on an eclipse or that has eclipse energy. Because look at, she has a north node in the seventh house of partnership and she has a south node in the rising, right? So she knows what this feels like. She's looking for a partner that has some kind of north node influence in the chart because she has the north node in the seventh house of partnership. And we literally see that with Clay's chart because he has the North Node and the Sun together. Okay. She's also looking for her Mars, right? The seventh house for her is ruled by Mars. In a woman's chart, Mars is the man. She has Mars in Leo. And what does Clay have? He has a moon and a south node in Leo. So he's very familiar with this energy, right? So we can see how Clay is literally embodying that Mars and Leo energy, that North Node energy that we see indicated in the type of partner that Meg is going to be with based on her own chart, apart from Clay's, right? So, the other thing that we really like, this is what you want, this is what you want. This is what you want in relationships. There's so many things. We're going to go deep with this, okay? There's so many things that are just great compatibility in their chart. There are some tense things. There's some things that are a little difficult, a little hard, but the majority of their synastry is actually very, very easy, okay? And it works, all right? So the first is you want your Venus and your Mars talking to each other like this. So Clay has Mars and Capricorn, and Meg has Venus and Capricorn. He also has Venus and Capricorn. He has Venus, Saturn together, right? But he has Venus and Capricorn, and she has Mars and Capricorn. Oh, I'm sorry. He has Mars and Capricorn. She has Venus. We want Venus and Mars together like this. We want them together. We want them in the same sign. We want them trining each other or sextiling each other or conjunct like this, okay? Because Venus is the woman and Mars is the man. When we have healthy Venus Mars aspects in synastry like them, like they do, we know what role we are here to play in the relationship. We know who is going to be Mars and who's going to be Venus. Sometimes you may be the woman, but you're actually Mars in your compatibility with your partner. And your man and your spouse is playing the role of Venus. Okay. Sometimes this happens. I see it all the time. I do a lot of synastry readings, and a woman will be like the Mars in the relationship, and the man will be the Venus in the relationship. And she's always wondering, like, why is it that I always got to call the shots? And why is it that I got to be the leader? And why is it that, I'm always the one doing and being so active and being so, promoting this and da 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 and being and moving the relationship along. Well, my love, I hate to say it, but you're playing the role of Mars in your relationship, right? And it's sometimes that's just the way your chart is. Sometimes that's the way the energies balance out in a relationship. And also sometimes that's the role you're meant to play in a relationship. Sometimes a woman, the way her chart indicates her being the boss in the relationship. And I mean, come on, look at it, right? If we look at Meg's chart, who's the boss in her relationship? Clearly it's her. Right? Look at it. She has the 10th house sun. The 10th house is the house of authority. She has a 10th house sun. She has Venus and Capricorn in the ninth, right? She has a moon in Leo. Like, come on. She's the boss. She's the one we're letting her get her way. This is the way her chart is built. She's a 10th house sun, right? She might as well be a Capricorn, right? And sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And it's so interesting because many times what we'll see is like we have these cultured, gendered expectations that we bring with us into our relationship where, we want to be the feminine one and we want to be taken care of and we want to be the one that's like, that doesn't have to make all the decisions and we don't want the power in the relationship. We want our partner to be the one that carries that is driving the car and that is changing the tires. And I was like, right. But sometimes your chart doesn't indicate that. Your chart is not telling us that. Okay? Your chart is telling us, you know what? Actually, you're the boss in your relationship, and your partner is meant to be the more chill, sweet, soft-natured, supportive, domestic one. Okay? And that's the way it is, right? And I would even if looking at Meg's chart, I would tell her the same thing because she has what? She has the seventh house ruler in the fourth, right next to the moon, right? So her partner, seventh house, right? The partner for her, which is the seventh house, is ruled by a fourth house Mars. So this tells us her partner is going to take on fourth house energy. He's going to be more like a Cancer, domestic, family oriented. He wants to be at home all day. He likes his privacy. He's more inhibited. He's more sensitive. He's more like a homebody type of energy. And then she has Mars next to the moon, which tells us, which it further enhances that energy. Her spouse being more of a lunar energy, more of a fourth house moon energy, chill, more domestic. He likes to cook, and things like that, possibly. Or, he likes his collection of cars, or he likes to collect things. He may have, Pokemon card collection or something, Fourth house is objects, big objects that we own. Like also people that have fourth house energy, they like to collect things. They like collecting things of the past. They like memorabilia. These people are prone to hoarding and stuff, right? So those, right? So sometimes it's just about the role that you play in your relationship, but also how your particular synastry balances out with the other person, right? Your synastry is not the same with everybody. Sometimes you're based on your synastry with somebody else, the roles will change, the roles will reverse, and you will find yourself being more in a feminine, more in a receptive, or sometimes being in more in a masculine, more in an active role, depending on your particular synastry with the other person, right? Sometimes someone else's synastry awakens your Venus or your moon. It doesn't really aspect your Mars or your Sun. So you're going to see yourself playing more the role of Venus or the moon in your relationship, right? Whether it be you're a man or a woman, doesn't matter, right? So it's just something that it's like it's something I think astrology, one of the gifts that astrology does is it helps us understand sometimes the gender dynamics or the power dynamics or the energy dynamics in a relationship that we can't make sense of, right? But when you look at the astrology and if we understand the astrology, then we can see, okay, now I can see why, because looking at her synastry chart, oh, that person's Mars is very active, or, they're activating my moon or my Venus, where their sun or their Mars are active or something, right? So, but the reason why we want people that are compatible when it, like, for instance, with Clay and Meg, right? How they got this whole Mars, Venus, and Capricorn thing. It's because when we have a compatible Venus and Mars like this, we have a compatible sun and moon like this. Look at, they both got the same sun, they both got the same moon in Leo, right? Like we know what our role is in the relationship. There's no confusion about what role we're gonna play, right? They both got a sun in Aquarius and a moon in Leo. So they both know Meg is doing the moon in Leo. That's her. She's gonna be the moon in Leo in the relationship, and he's gonna play the role of the sun in Aquarius, right? He knows that he's the Mars in Capricorn and that she's the Venus in Capricorn. He just knows that. And it's gonna be an energetic thing that just makes it very easy. And we enjoy playing these roles. We know what roles we're gonna play in the relationship. Meg knows that she's gonna be the moon in Leo. He's looking for that moon in Leo, right? He expects to be with the moon in Leo type of woman because he has that in his chart, right? She's looking for a sun in Aquarius type of man. That's what, right? She has a sun in Aquarius. She knows what that feels like. She knows what that looks like. It's familiar to her. It's recognizable to her, right? Remember what I was saying about Meg, right? She's looking for her Mars in Leo. And look what Clay has touching her Mars. Look at his sun in Aquarius is directly opposite her Mars in Leo. Do you see that opposition between the sun and Mars? This, I love this aspect for them. This creates so much sexual intimacy and so sexual connection. That's another thing that you want. This is another reason why you want Mars and Venus together, because when Mars and Venus are together, like the way Megan and Clay have it, the sexual compatibility is on point. And this is like, the sex that keeps on giving. It's like we're not going to get bored of each other. And I think that's the other thing that's so important in helping us understand synastry is, especially with Mars, when Mars and Venus are involved, is when like, let's say you've dated someone, right? Or you're dating someone and everything is great. Like you guys get along, you guys have great communication, you guys want the same things out of life, everything is just easy and great, but then the sex is terrible and you guys have no sexual chemistry, or you're not even physically attracted to them, but if something within you is telling you like, wait a minute, I should be attracted to them because they treat me nice. They have everything I'm looking for, right? But then there's something missing, there's something off. You're not sexually attracted to them, or the sex is weird, or the sex is off in some type of way. Well, that's usually because Mars and Venus, and from both sides, are not speaking to each other. Mars and Venus are not talking to each other, or they're in bad aspect to one another. Okay. Also, sometimes when there's too much Mars activated in a synastry chart, when Mars is activated in a negative way, that really intense, passionate sex can become anger, can become fighting, can become jealousy, possessiveness, can become a lot of very detrimental, challenging things that we experience in love, right? Too much Mars, not enough Venus, not enough Moon in a synastry chart or in compatibility between two people it brings destruction. It could bring chaos and anger and fighting, right? And that's also, and we can see that with like a relationship that's built on sex, right? It's like you guys just have good Mars Venus compatibility, but the rest of the compatibility is off, or that Mars and Venus stuff is making bad aspects to like Mercury, the Sun, and the Moon and stuff, right? So, all right. So, okay. So looking at their synastry, right? So we can see how Clay is literally the embodiment of Meg's Mars because his sun is opposing her Mars, okay? The fact that his sun is in her 10th house is also very important because the 10th house is our career, is our public image, is our reputation, right? So if we're a public figure the way Meg is, we're thinking about, okay, how does this relationship going to impact my career life? And how is this relationship going to impact my public life? Like, what are people gonna think about it? What are people going to see about it? Did this just begin? No, we started this at 1 o'clock an hour ago. We've been going for about an hour. Well, the fact that he has his sun in his north node in her 10th house actually tells us that he's going to amplify her career. He's actually going to be a big part of her public image, or she's going to put him on display alongside her, right? Because his sun is in her 10th house. So, you know how sometimes people will keep a relationship out of the public eye, or they'll be dating for like 5 years or 10 years and no one will know. Well, that's usually because there's no sun synastry happening, or the 10th house and the 11th house in the top half of the chart is not activated in synastry. Okay. So when a man has his sun in your 10th house, you're going to show him off. He's going to be a part, he can be or possibly be part of your career life, part of your public life, right? He's also going to help you heal. So this is also a really interesting thing. The 10th house is the house of the father. The 10th house is the house of authority figures, right? And the 10th house is also people that we kind of look up to and we have a lot of respect for. So what's interesting is Clay, his son being in her 10th house, because she has a wounded relationship with her father, right? He's going to help her heal her relationship with this 10th house son. You know, he's going to help her heal these like father wounds, these woundedness. He's going to help her heal this woundedness with her own public image, her own public reputation, which I think can be a little difficult for her sometimes because she does have Aquarius in the 10th house, right? Taurus rising, they can get ostracized or bullied or picked on publicly or in their like career life and stuff because they have Aquarius in the 10th, right? So they in some ways they are pushing up against what it means to be an outsider, an outcast, they're pushing up against some kind of status quo or some kind of cultural paradigm many times. Um, because why? Aquarius in the 10th. Does that make sense? That's an Aquarian thing. So his son up there, right, tells us that, yeah, someone said it gave that with the golf video. It's giving boyfriend father. Yeah, he's like teaching her how to play golf, right? And he's like, it's like a father energy. Yes, it is, right? It is a father energy. And he is he is this father, he is this healing father energy to her, right? He is this healing father energy to her because, come on, she has a moon in Leo. He has a moon in Leo. They both have a sun in Aquarius, right? So he's kind of taking on this role of he's taking on this like parental authority role, right? His son is in his 10th house. His son is in her 10th house, but his moon is also in the fourth house in Leo for her, right? So they have a really rich, fun home private life. Like they actually enjoy being at home together, right? So this is another way to look at a synastry chart, or when you're looking at synastry, you want to see where your other person's placements are at in your own birth chart. You want to, so, right? So we're looking at Meg the Stallion and Klay Thompson's synastry. So Meg, for those of you just joining us, Meg is a Taurus rising. She has a Sun in Aquarius, the Leo moon, right next to Mars. She has Mercury in Aquarius, and then she has Venus in Capricorn over here. She has Scorpio in the seventh house of partnership with the North Node, and then she has Jupiter and Sag over here in the eighth. Okay. Um, and then this is Klay Thompson's chart. So we don't know his rising. So I just put the sun on the rising. I put the birth time at 6 a.m., but he's an Aquarius sun, the North Node. And then he has everything in Capricorn. He has Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Mars. And then he has a moon in Leo and he has Jupiter in Cancer. So we're talking about why. So this, and then this is their charts laid on top of each other. So if we go ahead and actually yeah, this is with Meg on the rising. So we can see on the inside in orange, this is Meg's chart. Okay. So she's the Saturn in Pisces, Sun in Aquarius, Venus in Capricorn. She has her moon, Mars in Leo right here, right? And then on the outside in blue, maybe I should have explained this before jumping into this industry. On the outside in blue, we have Klay Thompson's chart. Okay. So we're looking at the chart in a few different ways. All right. We're looking at the chart in a few different ways. We're looking at the aspects that the planets are making to each other. All right. And we're also looking at the placement of the planets in the houses because the planetary, like where the other person's planets are at in your chart based on the houses in your chart is also incredibly important. Very, very, very important because there's houses that you want people to have synastry with, and there's other houses that you really don't want people to have synastry with, or you don't really want their placements. And this is tried and true. I'm gonna tell you, this is something that it's something I've noticed. You really, 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 really want to avoid people that have placements in your 12th house, your sixth house, and your eighth house. Okay. I cannot tell you. I I just gotta be honest. Like, because the thing is, okay, these houses, the 6, 8, and 12, these are the houses, especially the 6 and 12. This is the karma houses, okay? But these are the houses that have a lot to do with betrayal and deceit and deception. And they also have a lot to do with energies between people where it's like there's disrespect, there's disharmony, there's, deception, there's a lack of treating the other person with um truth or with integrity or with compassion. Okay. So the houses that you want synastry in or that you want their placements in, you want them in their fourth, fifth, four, five, especially the seventh. We need something to anchor in the seventh, the ninth, the first, the second, 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10. These houses are good. 11th house is good too. Some houses are better than others though. The best houses are 1, 5, and 9. 1, 5, 7, 9. Okay. The 10th, the 4th, the 11th, these are a little bit more neutral. But it really depends on the synastry, right? Like, so just because they have a good planet placed in a good house, if there's negative synastry happening with the planets actually harshly talking to each other, the good house placements kind of get canceled out a little bit. So, right? So we love this for Meg. This is probably one of the best things for her This is why I think they're gonna get married, actually. I think they're gonna get married. Let's get married. Um, we love the fact that Klay Thompson has a Capricorn stellium in Meg's ninth house. Okay. The ninth house is the ninth and the fifth are like the most blessed, the most divine, the most lucky of the chart. And when a man has a stellium in your ninth house, he's gonna be very devoted to you. He's gonna be very loyal. He's gonna be very trustworthy. You activate his morals and his ethics. Okay. Like he's gonna be morally good with you. Like he's not gonna lie to you. He's gonna be very honest with you. He's not gonna, you know, but it really depends though, right? Because just because you bring out his better qualities or because his placements in your chart indicate him hitting your chart in a good way, if he's not a moral, ethical person, then we're not going to really see the beauty of the ninth house synastry come out. Okay? Because this can easily manifest, the shadow of the ninth house could also manifest as what? Legal battles, court battles, terrible experiences when you guys go vacation and go travel. You know, all of a sudden he leaves you at the hotel and he goes back home and you're there all by yourself, broken up with in the middle of, in the islands. You're in the middle of Jamaica, okay? And you done woke up and you guys had an argument and he went back to the States and he done left you there in the middle of Jamaica all by yourself. That is bad, negative ninth house synastry, you know? Um, so there's things you gotta watch out for. Just because someone has good placements in your chart, or just because they're anchored into your chart and they look like they should be a good partner to you, it doesn't take away from the fact that we have to analyze their own chart by themselves to know what kind of partner they are and the quality of partner that they are, right? And this is one of the things I always talk about. Like some people will be like, "Oh my God, we have such good compatibility." Yeah, but you have good compatibility with someone that is a bad person, right? Like it's like just because you got good compatibility does not tell us that or does not indicate the relationship working out and being good, because both people are going to bring their own personality, they bring their own characters, they bring their own trauma, they bring their own karmic patterns into a relationship, right? So we love this synastry for Meg, but if Klay Thompson wasn't a good guy and was a little messy and a little bit of a troublemaker, then I'd be like, all right, Meg, you got to watch out because, this man, you could end up in some kind of drama. So the other interesting thing that I'm really curious to see how it's going to manifest because I do believe that these are their karmic partners, okay? I do think that Meg, so looking at their synastry, there's a few things that gave me this kind of story or narrative that came through. I do think that Meg kind of betrayed or deceived or hurt Klay Thompson's feelings in a past life. So looking at their synastry, the story that I got with this, okay, what told me this was um the North Node, Lilith, Pluto, this thing going on here. Okay. This thing right here. This whole little thing right here. That's what it is. And then also she's on the inside of the chart. And then he's on the outside. Um and this like Lilith thing. So Lilith, right? I was looking at Black Moon Lilith, like his Black Moon Lilith in her seventh house. She has a North Node in Scorpio in the seventh, and then I was looking at his Black Moon Lilith and his Pluto there. And what I was getting with this is kind of like it's kind of like Klay Thompson is like a good guy, right? Klay Thompson, he's like good, he's ethical, he's moral, he comes from a stable family. His mom and his dad were always there growing up, so there was a lot of expectation for him growing up. It was more like you have to be really good or, His dad was a professional athlete. His mom was also a professional athlete, Klay Thompson. So there was a lot of expectation of success, like for him growing up to kind of like be the best and kind of like follow the rules and to kind of like do everything that like in a moral, ethical way. Because he has this whole ninth house stellium, right? So, but looking at Meg's chart, she's kind of like the troublemaker a little bit. She has Moon Mars together, right? She has Mars opposite the sun. She's got this Saturn square Jupiter, you know, she's got the North Node in the seventh house, right? So, and she's got, and look at, she's kind of like a, I don't know, she's like a Lilith energy a little bit. Meg is a little bit of a Lilith energy. Um, Where did I get that from? Well, she's got Lilith and Gemini. Oh, Lilith coming into her Mercury. Yeah. Lilith. Yeah. She's got this thing with, she's got a little bit of a relationship with Lilith. Okay. So, but what's interesting about Clay's chart, right? If you look at his chart, he he like wants to get to know Lilith a little bit. Like he's kind of curious a little bit about Lilith. Like he wants, you know, look at he has Mars touching Lilith. Like he's got a very interesting relationship with Lilith. Klay Thompson does. He's got this Lilith in Scorpio, right? So, but it's interesting, the synastry right here, right? With this Lilith and Scorpio, it's kind of like the good boy being with like the bad girl, like the bad, like the highly sexual, you know, kind of salacious. She's kind of like taboo in some type of way. Like she comes, you know, she's got, you know, it's like she's kind of like Meg is embodying a little bit of this Lilith and Scorpio. And the Lilith is the celestial point of like shame, hypersexualization, something taboo, deception, cheating. You know, it's like I want like you like it, you see it, but you can't have it. You know it's taboo. You know it's hands off in some type of way, right? So what's interesting to me is this Lilith contact, this narrative about Lilith, the story that I got was actually that Meg in a past life, she chose the bad boy over the nice guy. She actually chose to be with, she didn't choose Clay. She chose to be with someone else. She kind of broke his heart a little bit, you know? She kind of broke his heart a little bit. So I think Clay is a little bit of the victim here in their karmic synastry. Okay. And that's what the North Node, Lilith, Pluto, all this told me. Okay. That there's a past life karma associated with betrayal and deception and someone choosing someone else. Okay. Because she chose the bad boy over the good boy because he's the good boy. Right. So in this lifetime, she's being given an opportunity to make good with him, to heal this kind of karmic thing where she kind of chooses the bad boy, the troublemaker, right? Instead of the nice guy, the humble guy, the guy that is like, you know, loyal and committable. He's simple, he's boring, he's a little nerdy, he's a little strange, a little different, but he's like the good choice, right? And so, and I think Clay is gonna really kind of test her a little bit to be like, you know, do you need all this drama? Do you need all this, you know, tension? Do you need all this conflict in your relationship life? Or can you be with someone where it's easy, where it's simple, where there's no arguments, there's no fighting, there's no ego battles? Like, we don't need to be, there doesn't need to be these big dramatic moments in the relationship. Can we just be in a relationship that's simple, that's boring, that's a little easy, right? That's not going to be excessively dramatic and climactic and you know, arguments, right? And I think Clay is coming in to kind of teach, you know, Meg to be a little bit more, things can be simple and boring and easy, you know, because she could be the drama. She likes the drama. She has Moon Mars together. You know, she can be a little bit, she could be the drama in a way, right? So yeah, so that's why I'm kind of feeling like looking at their synastry, this like seventh house contact, I'm kind of feeling this energy of kind of like that North Node Lilith together. It's like there's this kind of karmic thing that the chart indicates around, you know, him, not him. Also, this could also be with him too, right? Like him being ashamed of a partner, Lilith and Scorpio, him being ashamed of having a partner that is very sexual or very taboo, or him feeling the love, he knows that he loves her, he feels it, but then he doesn't fully commit to her, he doesn't fully invest in the relationship because he's scared that she's going to cheat on him, or that, she's too hypersexual, or he's putting too many demands on her, right? He's a Capricorn stellium, he's expecting tradition, right? You gotta dress, you gotta like dress down, you gotta cover up, you gotta blah 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 blah. She's like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna dress like right. So I think they're here to kind of teach each other kind of like opposing lessons. I think she's here to teach him how to embrace a little bit more of his like wild side, his fun side. He doesn't have to be so rigid and follow the rules. He can kind of do things that are a little bit more dangerous, a little bit more fun, a little bit more spicy. And I think And I think he's teaching her, okay? He's teaching her how to be more like emotionally vulnerable or honest, or even how to like be safe, or even how to like, you know, honor commitment and stay consistent and reliable. I think he's also teaching her how to like compromise and peace keep. Like I feel like he's teaching her how to like we don't have to argue, we could talk about it, we can find a solution. Like we don't have to, it doesn't have to be drama and arguments and fighting. It could be a little bit more simple, a little bit more basic. And one of the things I really like between their synastry, I really like the communication happening between her Mercury in Aquarius and his moon in Leo. I really like this Mercury moon opposition here. This is, I think, one of my favorite synastry aspects between them two. This, his moon in Leo is talking to her Mercury in Aquarius, which is, I think, this kind of daily contact, this daily conversation. We're sleeping at each other's houses. We're going and doing errands together, Mercury. So, how does Mercury show up in synastry, right? Mercury shows up as communication, your day-to-day habits and behaviors, your routine, right? The way that we think, how we think about each other, right? What our communication is like towards one another, right? And so when we have good Mercury Moon contact like this, good Mercury Moon synastry, also, just Moon synastry in general, also Sun Moon synastry, um, we fit into the other person's life very easily. So we can hang out every day. We can go and do things together every day. And we never get bored with each other. We always have something to talk about. There's always something to laugh about. There's always something very humorous, or something very cutesy, or something very silly or funny, right? About our relationship. And we kind of make these memories throughout the day in these like little moments where there's silliness and there's goofiness, and that's a very Mercury moon thing, right? And that's when we have good Mercury synastry, right? We're looking for good Mercury synastry. The way Mercury shows up in synastry is your guys' day-to-day habits or your day-to-day routines align. You guys go and like run errands together, right? We are able to talk to each other easily or consistently every day, right? There's no delays in communications, there's no confusion around communication. Even also our communication styles are in alignment, right? When I say something, you understand what I'm saying, you understand what I mean, right? And we can see this a lot of times when people have really bad Mercury synastry, like we can't even get the basics down. Like bad Mercury synastry will show up as like, oh yeah, like we're always like misinterpreting what the other person says. We're always like confused what the other person is trying to say or whatever. There's like miscommunication that's always happening. The other person never texts me. I never text the other person. I have no will or no desire to text them or talk to them. You know what I mean? Or when we talk, there's always confusion. There's always like, misinterpretation of words and something like that, right? Or even, sometimes bad Mercury synastry. Oh, I've seen it be real ugly with Saturn square Mercury, or Saturn opposite Mercury, or even Mercury. Oh, I'm sorry, Mars opposite Mercury, or Mars square Mercury. Oh my gosh. When people have Saturn opposite Mercury or Saturn square Mercury in Synastry, I've seen it show up as the Saturn person telling the Mercury person that they're stupid or silencing them or being like, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. Or even Mercury square Mars is like, oh, whenever you talk, you irritate me. Whenever you talk, your words sound like nails on a chalkboard. Oh, whenever you talk, oh, you frustrate, you irritate me. I just want to argue. I just want to fight you, you know? Or even like cutting the other person off. That's another Mercury Mars bad synastry thing is one person always cutting the other person off, or one person always speaking over the other person. That's a Mercury Mars thing, right? When you're looking to solve communication issues in a relationship, you got to take a look at your guys' Mercuries and what's going on with each other's Mercuries and also what's going on with each other's third house. How are they fitting into your third house? How are you fitting into their third house, right? Because that the third house is going to tell us whether or not there is good communication, healthy communication that's happening, right? So, for instance, if we take a look at, Megan Clay's synastry, right? Look at Clay has Jupiter in her third house with Chiron here. You see? So he's helping her heal her communication wounds, right? It's also really interesting that he was teaching her something because the third house is about education and teaching and learning and right? It's a house of schooling and us being a student. So it's really interesting also how Clay has Jupiter Chiron in her third house in Cancer because the fact that his Jupiter is there kind of tells us he's gonna be very compassionate and sweet with her, Jupiter in Cancer, but he's gonna like teach her things and like educate her. Like he kind of comes off sometimes as like a teacher, a professor, like a coach energy to her, because his Jupiter in her third house, right? The other really cool thing that we love, this is something that we always look for when in synastry, okay? Always look for this in synastry. You want a man's Jupiter opposing your Venus if you're a woman, okay? You want a man's Jupiter opposing your Venus by sign. So, what do I mean by that? Meg has Venus in Capricorn, right? So we want a Jupiter in Cancer for her. We want a man that has a Jupiter opposite the sign of her Venus because Jupiter and Venus are lovers, right? And Jupiter is going to be a partner to Venus because why Cancer is the seventh house away from Venus and Capricorn. So if a man has Mars, Jupiter, the sun in Cancer, right? Um, she's going to be attracted to it because of her Venus and Capricorn, right? Opposites attract. That's an astrological thing as well. So we love that his Jupiter's in Cancer for her because the Jupiter in Cancer opposite her Venus in Capricorn tells us that there's this like that traditional, that kind of like family, that kind of like, let's have kids, let's do the Cancer Capricorn thing, let's build a career together, let's build a house together, let's live together, let's have a family together, right? Like that, this is like very, very strong. This is a very strong connection for them, right? Also, I'm going to draw some aspects. I'm going to draw some aspects with Lilith and Chiron here. So I want to show you guys something that is, I think, is it important? I think it is. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, it's very important. Very, 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 very important. Very, very important. So you'll notice that we have some new lines show up because I went and drew some aspects between their Chirons and their Lilith. So look at this is without Chiron and without Lilith, right? So we can see that their Chirons and their Liliths are not, there's no aspects being drawn to them. So what I did is I go to extended settings and then I go to and hit Lilith and Chiron to add more, right? So we get more lines, right? With their synastry charts. So right away we see this Chiron in Cancer becomes incredibly important in their synastry. Very, very important, this Chiron in Cancer. And then look at her Chiron in Virgo. Look at this. Her Chiron in Virgo is being aspected by his Saturn, Venus, and Mercury. You see? So we got Chirons, we got both of their Chirons being activated in a very good positive way for both of them in their synastry chart. So when I'm looking at this Chiron contact, okay, the first thing that I noticed is the Chiron opposite Venus. This is super important because Clay is helping her heal some kind of family woundedness and some kind of love wound. His Chiron in Cancer touching her Venus in Capricorn tells us that he's coming in to help her heal her Venus, right? And then she's helping him heal his Chiron in Cancer in some type of way. So this is a very healing aspect when it comes to relationships. And what I say with Chiron contact, especially Venus Chiron contact, is that person is either going to heal you or that person is going to wound you. Okay, when there's Venus Chiron contact. All right. The other thing that I really love about this though is I love the Saturn. Look at this. So look at his Chiron in Cancer is also coming into her Saturn in Pisces, which is the ruler of her 10th house of the father in Aquarius, right? And her sun in Aquarius. So there's something incredibly healing about Clay in her chart. I think his Chiron in Cancer, aspecting her Saturn and her Venus, I think Clay is helping her heal quite a few things. I think his Chiron in Cancer in her third house is helping her heal communication things. I think his Chiron in Cancer is helping her heal some kind of woundedness with family, with mother, with father in general, because both her mother and her father have passed, where his mother and father are still here, right? So this could also be his family brings Meg into their family, right? Like he brings Meg into his family. And what's so healing for her is guess what? She has a good relationship with his dad. She has a good relationship with his mom. Like he brings her into his family, and then his Chiron in Cancer is helping her heal all this karmic woundedness that she has with family, right? So there's that. Okay. That's the Chiron synastry that we see here. Okay. His Chiron opposite her Venus, his Chiron trining her Saturn. Okay. The other thing, which I think is so interesting, is look at this. His Venus, Saturn, and Mercury are also trining her Chiron in Virgo. Look at this beautiful trine, right? So she has some kind of woundedness. Chiron and Virgo, this could be about health. This can be about wellness. This can be about our diet, what we eat, how we take care of ourselves. So it's really interesting is I think they were working out together. Yeah, I think there was a video of them working out together. So I'm really interested to see how this Chiron and Virgo touching Clay's Saturn, Venus, Mercury, and Capricorn. I think he's gonna be like, listen, babe, you can't be eating McDonald's. You can't be eating all that sugar. You got to take better care of yourself. You got to be a little bit more solid with your routine. We're gonna wake up and go to the gym at 6 in the. We're gonna wake up every morning and go to the gym from 6 to 8. It's kind of like helping her heal whatever this Chiron and Virgo wound is that she has. It could be around her habits, her behaviors, her routines, her health. But ultimately, it's the fifth house of children, right? It's the fifth house of children. And what's interesting about Meg's fifth house of children is it is ruled by Mercury, right? So her fifth house is in Virgo, which is ruled by planet Mercury. Okay. So, and this is where she has Chiron, right? Chiron and Virgo. So if we take a look, what is Chiron touching? Chiron is touching his Mercury, his Saturn, and his Venus, right? But not only that, look at this. His moon is touching her Mercury, which is retrograde. This Mercury is the dispositor for her Chiron and Virgo. So we can see that there's this very healing thing that's happening with Mercury. Like he's healing to her Mercury in many ways, which I think is going to speak to children, procreation, them having a baby together at some point. I think he's going to help her heal this karmic woundedness that she has around children and procreation. And I think the way his chart hits her chart, the healing thing for them or for her with him, with Clay, this is Meg the Stallion and Klay Thompson's synastry chart that we're looking at. The healing thing can be the fact that he gives her a baby. That's what we could be healing here. Come on, Chiron and Cancer. Cancer is children, babies. Chiron in the fifth house. Fifth house is children, right? Like there's kind of like this narrative in the story being told within their chart about there's some kind of healing and woundedness that's being done associated with childhood, caretaking, the past, children, procreation, what it means to be a mother and a father, right? And that's what we get with the axis of Capricorn, Cancer, Leo, and Aquarius. These axes right here, because look, they have everything, right? You got to think about it. The majority of both Clay and Meg's charts are in these signs: Capricorn, Aquarius, Cancer, and Leo. For both of them. For both of them. Look at she's got look at Aquarius, Capricorn, Leo, right? With the Saturn and Pisces and Jupiter and Sag. Where he's got Aquarius, Capricorn, and this Jupiter and Cancer and a Moon in Leo, right? So there's this kind of mirroring that's happening between them around these axes of Capricorn, Cancer, Leo, and Aquarius. And we're healing, we're learning, we're evolving something, right? Their compatibility, their connection to each other, their relationship is meant to help them understand these houses a little bit more, in these areas of the chart a little bit more, right? So what's so interesting about it though is the difference between Aquarius and Leo and Capricorn and Cancer, and how these parts of our chart or even these aspects of their synastry are going to pull them in very different directions. The Leo and Aquarius axis and the Cancer and Capricorn axis are very, very different, but they're very similar in a lot of ways, right? These are both ruled by Saturn, these houses, these signs, where these signs and these houses, I'm sorry, these signs are ruled by the luminaries. So the sun, right? Cancer, Capricorn. The moon, Saturn, right? Leo, Aquarius. The sun, Saturn, right? The sun rules Leo, the moon rules Cancer. Capricorn and Aquarius are both ruled by planet Saturn. So there's something around the energy of Cancer and Leo that's also being healed synergy wise with Clay and Meg coming together. And I think the both of them are healing some inner child woundedness. I think both of them are healing what it means to be a mother or a father. And I think both of them becoming a mother and a father with one another, like, having kids together, I think that's going to be a big part of this kind of karmic narrative, this karmic story that's going to happen between them. They like he can easily get her pregnant. Like they can easily have kids together. Like no problem. Like no problem. The just this right here, Mercury opposite the moon right here between a man and a woman like this. Oh, very easily that a woman can get pregnant, especially when Mercury is a woman's fifth house ruler, right? So for Meg, the planets that are connected to children and procreation for her are going to be the moon and are going to be Mercury because Mercury rules her fifth house of children. And so it's this Mercury in Aquarius that's really going to be an indicator of children and procreation for her, right? So if we take a look at their compatibility, right? Like we can see, look at his moon touches her Mercury, right? His moon touches her Mercury, right? Also, his Mercury and his Saturn and Venus are coming into her fifth house, Chiron and Virgo. So there's also a fifth house activation that's happening in multiple ways in her chart, right? So yeah, like so it's really cool to see just how compatible and harmonious their synastry is, okay? Um, so some a challenging thing about their chart. I think the most challenging aspect about their chart is the sun opposite Mars. I think this is very difficult, very hard. Mars opposite the sun. This creates for a lot of like sexual passion, but this can also end up in kind of like power battles or ego battles. And I think that's the risk that they run here with Aquarius and Leo is one partner becoming too powerful or too dominant or one partner overwhelming the other partner. And also kind of like the rules of the relationship. What are the rules of the relationship? Like what are these karmic expectations when it comes to the relationship, you know? And As long as we're following those rules and one person isn't breaking them, then we should be fine, right? But we can see it's just they got such good synastry. I mean, the Venus and the Mars together in Capricorn, they both got the same sun and moon, which is, it's very common. Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how often I look at a synergy chart and I see some two people that have the same sun, same moon, or they have the sun opposite the moon. It's a very, very, very interesting thing. Like one person will have a sun in Aquarius, the other person has a moon in Leo. One person has a sun in Sag, the other person has a moon in Gemini, because that's a full moon aspect in the chart, right? Like so when people have a full moon aspect in their synastry, sun opposite the moon, it brings a lot of magnetism. The sun and the moon are partners, just the way Mars and Venus are partners. So we're always going to be looking to, Sun, Moon, Mars, Venus primarily when we're talking about synastry. Okay, and when we're understanding synastry. Okay, and one interesting thing I think about their chart, which I'm curious to see how that manifests, is the different Jupiters, we got one person has Jupiter in Sag, the other person has Jupiter in Cancer. Clay has a really strong Jupiter where, Meg she has Jupiter in she has a strong Jupiter too, but it's just in the eighth house. So I'm really interested to see how maybe they there's going to be some disagreements around their beliefs or what they believe and things like that. I think that's one of the things that could be a thing. Um, because the Jupiter squares. But I think they're gonna be together a long time. I think they're gonna be together a long time. Another interesting thing I want to show you is you see how Meg has Venus, Saturn touching each other? Look at this. She has Saturn in Pisces, touching her Venus in Capricorn, right? Well, look what he has. He has Venus and Saturn together. So they both have a Venus Saturn aspect. They both have Venus Saturn. So they like Saturn people. They both are attracted to Aquarian energy, right? They're or Capricorn energy. They're attracted to Capricorn Aquarius energy. So it's really interesting to see how they have they both have Saturn, Venus in aspect to each other, and they ended up together, and they both ended up with an Aquarius, right? The other person is an Aquarius, right? So it's so interesting how they both ended up with Saturn because they both have Venus Saturn aspects in their own individual charts. Does that make sense? Do you see that? See how that makes sense? Someone said it's strict around here. Yeah, I don't really look at composite charts only because I haven't studied them and I haven't really studied them a lot of them or that's I don't know, I just don't get information from them the way that I do from synastry charts. Where's that at right here? Oh, composite chart, yeah. I just don't get so this is their see the thing about doing a composite chart for them, which is a little. Ooh, we got Saturn opposite the moon here. Oh, we got Jupiter in the seventh house. Oh, they're gonna get married. Let's get married, baby. Let's get married. Let's get married. Yeah, look, they're like baby. Look, they are living in the dream world. They're living in a dream world. Look at we got Jupiter on the descendant in the seventh house of partnership. This is marriage. Look at Venus touching Jupiter. Let's get married. Yeah, yeah. Ah, it's amazing how you knock me off my feet. Oh, wow. Every time you get around me, I get weak. How I wanna know what turns you on. I like to know so I can be the one and more. I wanna know what makes you cry. So I can be the one to always make you. Oh, tell me. Ah. Let me go get my. I'll be right back. Let me go get my Thai tea real quick. I left it in the freezer. Tell me what I gotta do to please you. Baby, anything you say I'll do. 'Cause I only wanna make you happy. From the bottom of my heart, it's true. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. No, you know what? Let me tell you. They got in their composite chart, they have Jupiter trine Venus. Man. Jupiter in the seventh house. Man. Wow. Also, Saturn opposite the moon. You know what I will say though? You know what the composite chart is giving? The 12th house Saturn sun and the sixth house moon is giving that a lot of their own personal identity issues are gonna come up in the relationship. Like things like they're going to reveal things to each other about themselves around how they self-sabotage, like how their identity, how their ego, how their character, how their personality sabotages like the relationship. Ah, why did I rip that off? That's so I don't know why I did that. That was weird. This is my tai tea. Hmm. Let me say, where's the bra emoji? What is this? Yeah, I really like this. Hold on, let me change it. What's this? What's harmonics? I don't know what that is. I'm just gonna leave it to harmonic one, I guess. Yeah, I haven't done enough research on composite synastry, but just eyeballing this chart, I think there's gonna be a lot of kind of like personal woundedness is gonna be an issue. I also do think they're gonna have a bout of like there's gonna be something, they're gonna have relationship drama. Okay. They're gonna have relationship drama. I guarantee you, I feel it because you know what? I'm just seeing what Lilith is doing here. We got Lilith opposite the sun. We have Lilith, Chiron, Moon together. And then I was thinking about the Lilith in the seventh house in their synastry chart for Meg. And I'm looking at the eighth house Mars. I'm feeling like there's an external threat to the relationship. Is Megan Clay, yeah. Meg the Stallion, she's a rapper, and Klay Thompson is a basketball player. I'm just looking at the eighth house Mars in Libra at 29 degrees, and I don't know, it's giving there's an external threat to the relationship. There's something, someone from the past or something, you know. I don't know, maybe, and this could also maybe be like be from a social gathering or from like a social event or something. There's some kind of like miscommunication or there's some kind of, she gets caught hanging out with an ex or he gets caught hanging out with an ex. I don't know, something weird. There's something funky here. I love this, but the eighth house Mars and then this whole thing going on, I don't like this, especially with Lilith at 22 degrees opposite the sun. I don't know. I feel like someone is messing up the relationship. People are gonna be jealous of them as a couple. Yeah. I don't feel jealousy between them. I feel more possessiveness, like you belong to me and stuff, you know? I feel like it's Meg the one. I feel like Meg's the problem here, you know? I feel like Meg is the problem here in this composite chart. We love this though. We love Jupiter. We love the seventh house Jupiter on the descendant, and we love the Venus. The thing is though, is we don't really have a time, we don't have a time chart for him. So, we don't know his rising. Oh, so one of the things I wanted to say, so I was looking at Meg's, this is kind of veering off of our Synastry reading, but I was looking at Meg's transit chart. And Pluto is about to go on her Mercury, and Uranus is going to be trining her Mercury over the next few years. And then we're also going to have Jupiter going to Leo next summer and oppose her Mercury. And then the nodes are going to be in Leo, and her Mercury's going to be getting eclipsed. The North node's going to go into her 10th house, and the North node's going to be hitting her Mercury. Next 2026, 2027, and Jupiter's going to be in here. So I don't know. It's very possible that Meg could end up getting married or having her first baby in 2026. Very, very possible. Or getting engaged in 2026. Very, very, very possible. I gotta look to see what Mars is doing. But yep. Yep. She just had a Mars return too. You know. I'm pretty sure she met Clay during her Mars return. It'll probably be a little tough. I think it's gonna go great, go easy though. I think she has an all right Mercury. Her Mercury is really it's at the top of the chart. You know, she might have to get a C-section or something. It might be a little rough for her, honestly. But I think if she's like taking care of herself and her health is good, then she should have no problems. Well, yeah, this man want to give her a baby. Let's make a baby. Let's make a baby. Hold on. Sorry, I'm flipping between the screens here like a madman. Yeah, I think they're gonna have kids. Well, at least one, but I don't know, we'll see. Because I don't know, this could be a breakup. Sun, Saturn, square Pluto. I don't know, this could be a breakup. This could be some drama. This looks like it could be drama over some kind of I don't know. I don't really know much about composite charts though, so I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I have to, yeah, I don't read composite charts. I do mainly synastry. So, but yeah, let's go back to the synastry chart. It's synastry chart, synastry chart, synastry chart. So Clay is going through a Jupiter return. Clay is going through a Jupiter return. So Clay is looking for a wife. He's looking to be a husband this year. You know, he's looking to be a husband. And Jupiter is going to Leo next year and both activate both of their moons next year. So I would not be surprised if they end up engaged and by next year, and then they might have their first child. So yeah, did you guys enjoy this? We were here for 2 hours. We talked about quite a few things. We talked about quite a few things. Very fun. I had a lot of fun with you guys going over Meg and Clay's charts and then doing their Sinistry reading together. Hope you guys learned a thing or two. Maybe you circle that Jupiter transit. What are you talking about? Someone's asking me a question in the Instagram chat. Maybe you circle that Jupiter transit. Let me get this all. I had my Thai tea in the freezer for too long. I'm also gonna upload this onto YouTube. We'll do this again too. We'll do more synastry breakdowns like this. And we kind of do like a in-depth deep dive talking about compatibility and you know how people fit into our chart. You know what I mean? Oh, I was gonna say I'm full and I already know why I'm full. I'm just full. Oh, I had some rice, string beans, and tofu earlier. It's like, why am I full? Any questions you guys have before I let you go? Everybody that hung out today, thank you. It was a lot of fun. But I can't let you go. You're the only one. Well, how's it go? You're the one I want in my life. Already got a wife. Can't leave you alone. No, no, I'm living grown, but I can't let you go. Hey, I was listening to like 2000s, 90s jams. Friday night. A lot of those like really good R&B songs were coming up on my feed, or they were coming up on the radio. All right, well, I guess if no one has any questions, then I'm gonna go ahead and take off. We're gonna go ahead and end it here. I'll go ahead and post this. So if you guys want to go back and watch it, you can, okay? And I will upload this onto YouTube in a few hours, by tomorrow for sure. So, okay. But I love you all so much. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And yeah, I also do offer synastry readings. So if you ever want to have me look at your synastry with someone, anybody in your life, mother, father, spouse, husband, a boss, your your baby, that child you hate, your baby daddy. Oh my, that menace that we call your baby daddy. Oh my goodness. Oh, Lord Jesus. It's okay, you don't need their time. We did this reading today without Klay Thompson's birth time. All we have is a time chart for Meg. So you can totally do a synastry reading without someone's birth time. It'll be better if you have the birth time, but you don't need it. You can still look at their chart. You don't, I mean, it'll be best to have it. If you do have it, then amazing, because then we know what their real rising sign is, but you're not going to know their rising sign, right? And you're not going to know the houses, but you could derive houses from the sun or the moon. I always put the sun on the rising. I read a chart from someone's sun. I just assume the sun is the first house. Make the sun the first, and then you derive houses from the sun. But you can do that with the moon too. In Vedic astrology and Eastern astrology, they derive houses from the moon to look into relationship compatibility things. But, you know, do it your own way. Do it your own way, you know? I'm very like I'm very exploratory, creative, curious, playful, experimental is the word. Um, I'm very experimental with the way that I do astrology and the way that I like uh engage with astrology. I think, there's a lot, it all depends on how you go about your approach towards anything, right? Some people approach things in a very, stoic, structured, rule-oriented way, and other people approach things in a very fun, creative, experimental way. And that's how I am. I'm very experimental. And, there's a lot of astrological practitioners that are very by the book, and you got to be very rigid, and you got to do it like this, and before you have this you got to have this, and you got to have this, and you got to have this. And yeah, that's great, I love that for them, right? Like, but that's not my approach. I see myself as more of a astrological artist. I'm more of a astrological creative, and I'm gonna try different things. I'm gonna come up with my own things. I'm gonna come up with my own ways of doing astrology and my own ways of, and it's beautiful because I think it allows your experience of astrology to be way more fun and expansive and not so like rigid and not so controlled and not so da, 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 because I don't think astrology I think astrology is a very structured science, but I also think it's very intuitive and creative, and there is a playful, silly kind of element to it. Could being born around a new moon be a sign of a dad who might be absent, since the sun also represents the dad? Yeah, it can be. Yeah, or the mother and the father having a really weak relationship. But what'll actually be more indicative of an absent father is the 10th house and the 10th house ruler. So, like for instance, right, in Meg's chart, like Meg had an absent father. So we can see that in a few different ways, right? The absent father. Her dad wasn't really there for her life. And we can see that in her chart because the 10th house, right? Even though we have good planets here, we have the sun and Mercury up here, it's in its detriment, right? So the sun goes into detriment in Aquarius, and then it's ruled by the Saturn in Pisces, and we have Saturn squaring a 12th house Jupiter. So and then there's also the father houses are the 10, 5, and 9. And then we also have a Chiron in the fifth house in Virgo, right? So it's interesting because we can see a little bit of the absent father thing happening for Meg because of the weak sun and also because of the 10th house being ruled by Saturn. Okay. So this is also for Aries rising. They can have a absent or distant or a strange relationship with the father because they have Capricorn ruling the 10th, right? Aries rising. Um, and then because of the weakness of the sun is weak in Aquarius. So, but yeah, if you're born on a new moon or someone's born on a new moon and they have an absent father, then we're going to take a look at the dispositor of the sign of the new moon. So, of the sign that the new moon's in. So, if they were born in Cancer, right? Oh, then no, that brings us back to the moon. So, if let's say you're born on a new moon in Cancer, all right, the moon takes precedent in the sign of Cancer. So that tells us the new moon in Cancer, the moon is stronger. The relationship with mom is going to be strong, but the sun is a little debilitated. The sun's a little bit of weak, right? Because not only is the sun being overtaken by the moon in a new moon in Cancer formation, but the sun is also in a sign that it doesn't really like to be in. I mean, the sun likes to be in Cancer, it does all right, but the sun doesn't do that well in water signs. You put the sun, which is a hot, dry planet, in a sensitive, moist environment like a water sign, and it's not good. It can't live up to its functions. Does that make sense? Does the Aquarius moon fifth house still indicate? Yeah, well, it's the Aquarius moon, not the fifth house element that indicates having a harsh mother, right? If someone is an Aquarius moon, then in the fourth house of the mother they have a Capricorn. Well, yeah, you're Libra rising. Yeah. Yeah, Libra rising has Capricorn in the fourth house of the mother. And then so it doesn't matter, right? If you're a Libra rising in your birth chart, your mother is not only your moon, your mother is your fourth house and the planet that rules your fourth. So if you're a Libra rising, Your mother is your Saturn in your chart, no matter what. She's always going to be the ruler of the fourth. She's always going to be the rule, the cap. She's always going to be the energy of Capricorn in your chart. But then you have Moon in Aquarius. Guess what? Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn. It kind of doubles down and it amplifies the energy of that fourth house Capricorn in a way, where it amplifies the Saturn energy, right? So it becomes more about control, deprivation, lack, kind of meanness or coldness. That's a Libra rising thing. And then dad is the one that they have a better relationship usually. Libra rising tends to be closer to their father because Cancer rules the 10th house of the father. You see what I'm saying? Like Meg was daddy's girl right here. This is daddy's girl. You know? Um, she's got a 10th house son, so she looks up to the dad, she loves her dad, right? She's also got a moon in Leo. So, girls that have a moon in Leo, especially if they're born on a full moon with the moon in Leo, love their dad. Usually, right? But it's the influence of Mars here. So the thing that really makes, her domestic life and her relationship with her father strange and kind of difficult is the Mars. Mars next to the moon, Mars opposite the sun. All right, the placement of Mars here is really, really malefic for Meg. Mars is doing a lot of damage in her chart. My cat moon mom is so controlling. Yeah, I have a cat moon. I have a cat moon. My mom has a cat moon. My mom is very controlling. I grew up in a very controlled environment. Everything was very rigid. Everything was very rules. Everything was very, gotta please my mom, gotta please my mom. I want my life to be okay. If I want my life to be well, my mom has to be happy. If my mom isn't happy, I'm suffering, everyone's suffering. Leo moon, my dad is the goat. Well, you're his favorite. So my son has these placements. She's closer with his father. I do think I'm nurturing, but I can be strict too. Yeah. Yeah. Well, for Libra rising kids, right? Dad is usually the pushover, or dad is the one that is like gives them whatever they want or whatever, because they got Cancer in the 10th house of the father. And that's how it is. Like for some people's charts, Taurus rising is another one. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like Meg, yeah. Taurus rising is a sign where there's a rising where the parental duties can be kind of opposite sometimes. Because they got Leo in the fourth house of the mother, right? So it's like Taurus rising, their mom could be more like a father figure because they have Leo, the sign of the father, in the fourth house. Same thing with Libra rising. Libra rising has Cancer in the 10th house of the father. So dad takes on the maternal, domestic, emotional father figure. You know. Yep, I hate that it's like this though. I don't want to be the controlling parent. Then don't. You know, let her do whatever the fuck she wants. Sag moon, Sag rising, let me be. That's yeah, so ways that you can kind of like understand charts and so sometimes the missing father is because the 10th house rulers in the 12th house. So that's another thing I was gonna help. So right, sometimes you can have a missing father because the ruler of your 10th house is in the 12th or in the 8th or in the 6th. Or the ruler of the 10th house is afflicted by Saturn or the South Node, or you have the South Node in the 10th house, right? Let's say if you have the South Node in the 10th house, that could also be indicative that your father's missing or disconnected, or not even your real dad. Crazy, which is also something that's come up in a reading. When someone had the South Node in the 10th house, they're like, oh my gosh, like, I was raised by someone and I found out that in my 20s, that he wasn't my father. But I grew up my entire life thinking that he was my biological dad and he wasn't. South Node in the 10th house. She actually found out around the eclipses going through her 10th house. She was going through a nodal return when the eclipse is hitting her 10th and her fourth, and that's when she found out that her father, that the guy she called her father was actually not her biological father, the one that she was raised by. I like sun rising as synastry. I think it's fun. Anything in your rising sign is good. Like first house synastry is really good because we really identify with the person, especially if it's sun rising. It's like we identify with the person. We feel like they bring us alive. It's a very, they physically, we're very physically attracted to them. You know, it's like being out in the sun. It's like when you're dating someone that has a sun in your rising sign, right? It's like they're gonna shower you with affection and attention. It's like you're out getting sun. It's like the sun is beating down on you, and you're getting all those. You're feeling all warm. You're feeling all celebrated. You're feeling all seen. That's when someone's sun is in your rising sign. See what I'm saying? It's like it's a very, very fun, very expansive, very joyous. You laugh together, we party together, things like that. Does the 4 degree indicate missing father too or a deadbeat or something? No, 4 degrees is a Cancer degree. It's more about like having a 4 degree sun. No, 4 degrees is just the Cancer degree. I have a 4 degree sun, and my dad is he's more maternal. He's more domestic actually than my mom. My mom is like, comes home, pays the bills, and everyone else, she tells everyone else what to do. So I think the 4 degree sun is actually having a mom that's more bossy. When you have the sun at a Cancer degree, I think your mother, which is Cancer, is more powerful, strong, dominant. And I think that shows up as the father being more maternal, you know, or being more domestic or being more of the submissive, passive partner, which is how it is in my life. I have a 4 degree sun in Scorpio, and my dad is, my mom is like the boss, and my dad is more like the domestic one, you know. It makes you like a Cancer. It's like a Cancer energy. 4 degrees is Cancer energy. It's creative. It's home. It's connected to home, ancestry, very close with the family. People have a 4 degree sun or 4 degree placements. They identify with their family. They're very close with their family. They feel very loyal to their family. They're very connected, you know, to the family in some type of way. You have a 0 degree sun, is that what you said? Someone said that they have a 0 degree sun and they're absent. That's also a 0 degree sun thing. If you have a 0 degree sun or even like a 29, sometimes 29 degrees, but if you have like a critical degree sun, like zero, yeah, the father could be missing. That's another one. When people have that. When you were discussing the Chiron synastry, is it only healing if the aspects are opposite? No. I have Chiron synastry with someone, but it's conjunct. No. Any conjunction, opposition, trine, sextiles are the best. But they're either gonna hurt you or they're gonna help heal you, right? Like, but if you have Chiron synastry with someone, you have to be aware of that wounding in your life because that person's gonna trigger your woundedness with your Chiron in some way, right? So you have to you kind of have to be aware of your own woundedness to kind of understand how that person can trigger it because they're either going to help you heal it or they're going to hurt it. You know, they're going to teach you something about your Chiron. They're going to, and it could be painful, Um, it really depends. You got to be aware of your Chiron and how it shows up in relationships or how it shows up in the world or how, it shows up in your life so that when it shows up, if you have Chiron synastry with someone, so that when it shows up, you know how to address it. Because sometimes they'll trigger, synastry will trigger your Chiron, but the other person's not trying to do that. They're not even aware of your Chiron, right? They don't even know about astrology. They don't even know that you have a woundedness around your own worth, around your value, around money, or around your body, or around, love and romance, or around communication, right? They don't know. But, they don't. How many people are into astrology, right? And understanding. Oh yeah, I looked at our chart. Imagine you're like, I looked at our chart and I realized that my Mars is hitting your Chiron, and let's talk about it, right? Like, how many men are you gonna talk to that? How many men are you gonna like, or people are you gonna interact with where they're like, I looked at our synastry chart and I really think that it's our Chirons, like very rarely if ever. So, but it's definitely something that if you see that Chiron contact in Synastry, you definitely want to talk to your partner about it. It doesn't even need to be around like astrology. It could just be like, you know, it could just be like you tell them, I have a wound around communication, or I have a really hard time expressing myself, or I have a wound around receiving validation or receiving compliments. That could be like a Chiron and Virgo thing or Chiron and Leo thing. I have a wound around my mother and children and procreation and emotional expression. I have a wound around feeling safe in relationships, Chiron and Cancer, Chiron and Scorpio, right? You could talk to your partner about certain woundedness that you have where you don't even mention the astrology. You just talk about or how this woundedness manifests in your life and how possibly they could be triggering it, right? Without even bringing it back to the Chiron, to the actual astro speak, right? So, but the beauty of it is being made aware, right? Bringing it to your awareness and their awareness so that in case if we are triggering each other's Chirons, we can activate it. So, yeah, I think, yeah, astrology is very important. Astrology is very empowering. It can give us the tools that we need to help navigate our relationships so much more successfully and to bring into awareness certain things like issues or challenges or problems that we're having in a relationship, right? That we can't seem to fix or give words to, but then when we look at the synastry chart, we get a synastry reading done or whatever, all of a sudden we know we can pinpoint the problem. We can see where the issues are, right? So, okay. All right, my loves. Let me turn this back to me. I'm gonna let y'all go. It's been fun. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna go ahead and post this, like I said. Just want to stay for a little bit longer to do some like little Q&A and stuff. So yeah, so I'll see you guys tomorrow for the week ahead forecast. Um, I don't know, a lot of you liked 12 o'clock, or you guys, I don't know. I might do it again tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific time instead of doing it at 9 a.m. A lot of people liked the 12 o'clock time time period. So I don't know. We'll see how I feel about it. I do like doing it in the morning though. So, all right, my loves. Well, you guys have a beautiful, blessed day. I'll see you around. I appreciate you for hanging out and, spending time with me today. I have a lot of fun doing, astrology. I find astrology fun. So, but yeah, you guys have a beautiful one. Okay. I'll see you guys on the flip side. And, the moon's in Gemini, I think. Where's the moon at? Why did I feel called to do this today? Let's take a look and see. Where's the moon? Oh, the moon's yeah, the moon's at 17 Gemini, opposite my Saturn in Sag. Yeah, the moon's opposing my 10th house right now, so that's why I felt like doing this today. Interesting. 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 Loving the astrology's astrologing. The moon's like right on my IC, opposing my MC right now. Very cool. All right, my loves. You guys have a beautiful, blessed day. I'll see you around. Take care. Bye.